As dads, some days we feel like we have all the answers, and some days we feel like we don't have a clue. If that describes you, you're at the right place. This is the All Pro Dad Podcast. Hey, welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast, where each week we take a look at just one question. We talk about what the experts say, what we've gotten wrong mostly, occasionally what we've gotten right, and we leave you with one simple but powerful pro move. My name is Ted Lowe, and I'm your host, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Bobby Lewis, and Mr. BJ Foster.
Hi, Ted.
You guys, welcome. Glad you're here. But today, I'm excited. We're excited about the question of the week. What is the best April Fool's memory you have ever had? What is the best for you guys? When you think about April Fool's, do you have greatest memory maybe with your dad that your dad did, or you've pulled with your kids?
Not with my kids. The best joke I shared with my kids, we saw this video the other day, we watched it, and our kids, we were laughing so hard, especially my daughter who's a teenager. There's apparently this video going around, viral video of a teacher, and he made any student whose cell phone rang in the class had to answer it on speakerphone to deter kids from bringing cell phones to class and all that sort of thing. Well, this one teenager in the high school decided she'd prank her teacher back, and so deliberately got a phone call, put it on speakerphone, and pretended it was a call from the crisis pregnancy center. And on speakerphone, the mom or the friend or whoever it was, the adult's like, "Hi, little Miss so-and-so, yes, the results are positive and you are pregnant and, have a good day." And the teacher's mortified. He's like, "I can't believe this backfired on me." And he's like, he looks at the girl and says, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to be, the case. And I didn't, I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And she goes, "It's okay. I've decided if it's a girl, I'm going to name her April Fools." And the teacher lost it, and the class is laughing at the teacher and all that. And I show that to my kids. My daughter laughs so hard because it's a really good prank.
Oh, that took 5 years off that guy's life.
Oh my gosh, he'll never do it again. He's changing the classroom rules today.
Gosh. BJ, what about you?
When I think about April Fool's, it's two things. Number one, it's the day I started at Family First. So who knows who the joke is on.
Oh man, nice.
So there's that. But my family, we don't do elaborate pranks. We just kind of do bits on each other, but we don't limit it to April Fools. Yeah. I'll never forget my sister Katie would do this thing where if you were behind her on the steps or something like that, or you were going through a place where only one person could go through, she would just sort of stop, and you're like, okay, what is she getting something out of her pocket or whatever? And she realized you were behind her, and she just wanted to see how long it would take you to kind of realize that she's just sort of, or she would walk incredibly slow, and you're not thinking about it, but you're like, why is she taking so slow? And she's doing it to funny. Get me. And then
that is a good bit.
It's a very simple kind of a deal. And I've been doing it ever since.
With your kids?
She did it, with my kids, and my daughter in particular will just kind of be like, "Why are you so," and she'll start laughing. I mean, it's a very simple one.
It's funny.
And then the other one, my Uncle Jack used to do when all of us kids, we were all together and we'd be watching a game or something like that, or we'd be watching a movie, and it would be the pivotal scene or a pivotal play. And he would step right in front of the television and be like, "It is so good for all of us to be together and to see you guys," and we'd all be like, get out of the way. And so anyway.
That is a good bit.
My dad would do it differently when there was a climactic scary moment, like Jaws or whatever. It would be like this tense moment. He'd reach over and grab your arm and go, and scare the crap out of you.
They talk about taking years off of your life. That's exactly the type of thing.
Yeah. And I've always been jumpy. Imagine that. And so I'm so easy to scare. So I scare my kids constantly. But when I think of April Fools, I think of my dad, who pretty quiet, pretty reserved, not a big jokester. He's not going to try to ever make anybody laugh. Ever. In fact, he can say anything in the tri-state area of humorous and people will lose their mind, which is not fair. I got to work for it. But April Fool's was just his thing. He woke us up. It was always the wake up thing. Wake up. The dogs had puppies. Well, and we get up and we're just so excited. Well, the dog's a boy. And so you're going, oh gosh, how? And we were too old to be tricked. But the number one thing that pops into my head when I think about my dad, April Fool's, was we lived on a farm and we had a pond about 200 yards from our house. My dad comes running in there and says, wake up, there's geese on the lake. Well, this is before Canadian geese had taken over America. And so they were a big deal. I'm not even sure now that I'm thinking about it that it was legal, but it was exciting for him and for us. We jump up, we put on not all of the gear, but enough. It's freezing cold. We get all the way to the pond. We're looking and he screams from the back porch, April Fools. And he bent over double laughing, which is, I think I've seen him do that once. And that was the time. But I think there's so much to be said for humor, and we'll get to that. But first, BJ, you've got a little bit of a history lesson for us when it comes to April Fools. I'm a little taken back that you know all this, or you have a deep interest for it. But then I read it and I was like, oh, this is good. So talk a little bit about the history of April Fools.
I've got an interest in kind of fun facts. And so this is kind of, where April Fools comes from, which we don't necessarily know, but here's a couple theories. Number one, somewhere around the 15th, 16th century, the year used to be from April all the way through. So New Year's was celebrated on April 1st. And Pope Gregory came along and changed the calendar because he wanted Easter to line up with the spring equinox, which it had fallen out of place.
As you do.
Yeah. And so he changed the calendar, and the New Year's Day was January 1st. And so everybody switched. So they were celebrating New Year's on January 1st, but there were some that continued to celebrate on April 1st, and they were called the April Fools.
Oh, come on.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
So it could have been that.
We're calling the traditionalists fools? Is that the deal?
I guess so, yeah.
I want to stick to my childhood dates.
Look, there are some people that are going to listen to this and they're going to go back to the way that things were. And by the original calendar was set up by Julius Caesar. So it was the Julian calendar and it was changed to the
you also have some history of...
The Gregorian calendar is what we follow.
What calendar do we...
The Gregorian is what we follow now.
Okay. We probably need to keep it moving. They're going to put us on 1.25. Okay. All right. And so what are some of the hoax? The greatest April Fool's hoax of all time.
So a couple hoaxes. Number one, the spaghetti tree hoax of 1957. The BBC aired a segment talking about showing us Swiss farmers that were harvesting spaghetti from trees. And people believe that. Yeah.
And what year was this?
1957. I mean, there's no internet back then. They might have thought, hey, maybe in Switzerland there's...
The visual of spaghetti from trees is fantastic.
It is.
Yeah.
So there's that one.
I'd like to think I wouldn't have fallen for that.
I totally would have fallen for it.
1996, which is a little bit different. The internet had come along. The Taco Bell Liberty Bell. The Taco Liberty Bell. Taco Bell announced it had purchased the Liberty Bell and renamed it the Taco Liberty Bell.
I can see that happening.
As somebody from Philadelphia, that's offensive in every way to me.
Mm. Yeah.
So,
I could see people falling for that easily. That's kind of fun.
And well, it is Taco Bell to really think about that because I don't know, might spice up the Liberty Bell. All right. Google's hoaxes. Google famously launched fake products or features on April 1st. One of them was the Google Nose, which was a smell search.
Okay.
Which is not that I can easily believe Google doing.
I could see it coming. Like I really can't. Like it would not be surprising if in 2 years you could do it.
Like you're thinking about going to a restaurant and it's like, what is that food? You can see what it looks like, but what is it? Because if I smell food, I'm pretty sure I'm going to either know if I'm going to like it or not.
Like a digital scratch and sniff kind of situation. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I
want to go bigger. I want to see people like pretend to change the name of the country or something, make it a big deal, April Fools. Come up with, we're changing the flag colors to orange and purple. Something big, I
don't know if people would believe that.
Well, that's the joke.
If it was
sure they would. And then they get all mad.
We're not doing stars anymore. It's circles. We're having circles instead of stars on the flag. Just try it out.
We need to call Ted's dad to help us.
With the geese.
To help us strategize.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
I just hope I did get him arrested by the telling of that story.
Yeah, so we talk about humor, and I know a lot of dads probably do the dad jokes. I do it with my kids all the time. What do you call a visually impaired dinosaur?
What?
Do you think he saw us?
Do you think
like we tell jokes all the time. Like our kids do this all the time. We tell a little back and forth jokes. But what is the importance of joking? What is the importance of humor? I actually found a really interesting study done by Penn State University. And this was discussed over the course of weeks and weeks. They surveyed 312 people between the ages of 18 and 45. More than half of the people that were surveyed said they were raised by people who used humor. It's like 72% of the people in those studies said, yeah, my dad was hilarious. He tried to tell jokes at least. So that was kind of funny. But the more interesting part of the research was that when people were asked, did you have a good childhood? The majority of people, 63%, said, yes, I have a good relationship with my dad because of humor. And then the people that were saying, yes, my dad did a good job parenting, 68% of them said, yeah, my dad was funny. So people correlate good childhood, good parenting with dad trying to be funny and make life fun. Does that surprise you at all?
No, I mean, it's like, did you have joy growing up or didn't you? Like, were you at the pond getting screamed at, to shoot the geese once a year? I mean, that was delightful. That one memory of fun. No, it doesn't surprise me at all, because some of the dads that are a few years down the road from us that I admire the most, I kind of watched how they parented their kids. Humor and joy and laughter, it was such a huge part of it. I feel like when I'm looking back now as our kids are getting older and we're thinking through the podcast and different things, I wish I'd have done X, Y, Z differently. But the thing that we were intentional about, and just because it's a natural part of who my wife and I are, is just we've had fun in our house, and they're fun, and we scare each other constantly. I've got footage. We should post it the latest. I mean, 24-year-olds the other day, all you got to do is stand outside the half bath, and you hear the water running from the wash in their hands. Scaring them gives me so much joy. So much joy.
Well, you've written about how you like watching people trip and fall. So you enjoy this stuff.
I love that. But just, I think there's so much joy, and there's so many things that we can do with our kids that just to make them laugh and just go, this was fun.
Well, that checks out with the research, because what Penn State found really was interesting to me. They said humor helps diffuse tension during conflict. Yeah. So dads who are trying to be humorous, they can kind of just ease things in the home. Humor creates a safe environment for kids to express themselves. They feel like it's a spot where they can be vulnerable and honest with dad when they know dad's going to be having fun with them. And then shared laughter strengthens trust and emotional connections. So this is what you're saying checks out with the research too that Penn State has done over the years, that funny dads, and not even stand-up comics, but just dads who are trying to be funny, dads who are enjoying being around their kids and goofing around, those kids have a better relationship with their parents long term. So if you're not telling jokes, let's learn some jokes, Dad. Let's be funny.
And I think when we're laughing with our kids and they're going, he really likes me. My dad really likes me. My dad really wants to spend time with me. I make my dad laugh. I make my dad smile. And which shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, we hang out with people that make us laugh. There's a connection that comes through laughter.
So how have you done it, Ted? How have you connected with your kids using humor?
It's a little bit crazy at our house. We just did a reel for All Pro Dad. I'll put inflatables, like the Christmas inflatables. They're okay outside. When you bring those suckers inside, they're like the Macy's Day.
Just hide them in the closet or something?
I put one in the half bath. Half bath it's the place of joy, and not just to watch my phone. It is. I put it in the half bath, and so they're pushing on the door. There's that. I put it in the shower. I'd put it in there, put it in their room. And it's just those things. Our traditions were different at night, where my kids they knew to go, and when we tucked them in, they were at that age, they would go and they would hide under the covers. And then I would come in and go, wow, I'm really tired. I need to lay down, but that bed looks a little lumpy.
Smush them.
I'm going to have to roll it out. I go, oh, this is so lumpity. And they did that way too long. And it was so funny because I had the 24-year-old and the 21-year-old is taking a nap on the couch. This was last week. The 24-year-old looks at me and he goes, looks like somebody needs a lumpity. Wanted me to go over there and roll on the 21. I said, only if you help. And so we lumpity. He hated it and was so mad, but it was one of those things of just memories. And what's been fun on the podcast is I will reach out to them, to get data for the podcast. And I'll go, what were some fun things that you remember us doing? Gas stations are prime time when the kids are sitting in the back. They've been locked in the car seats and stuff. You can put on a show through the glass. I mean, pumping gas, like you can stick your nose on there, breathe like a pig. It's fantastic. You act like you're on the elevator. That's great. If you want to take it up a level, master level, you do the escalator, you shake the car, and we talked about pleasing the parent others. Like there's been so many people looking at me like, what are you doing? But my kids it would be like, when you get out of the car, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? And so I just think it's those silly, it's just those being silly with them. And then they turn into pretty funny kids. And that's the thing I love about it as they're getting older. They're really funny. They're way, funnier than me, and they'll send memes. And so it's just been this culture. It's who we are as a family. And it's my favorite thing about who we are. I mean, we've definitely had our struggles and our tragedies and different things, but this is something that brings me great joy.
Yeah. We'll do stuff like that at our house too. We'll be making like the Play-Doh at the house because we got younger kids. They're not 21 yet. They're still elementary age, and we'll be goofing around with the Play-Doh and we're like, who can make the best mustache out of Play-Doh? And then you're like walking around with the Fu Manchu out of Play-Doh. Exactly. Like that's funny. And is it serious? No. Is it that big of a deal? No, but I bet it implants a tiny memory in the back of their head. And, I want them to think back when they're my age. I say, man, Dad didn't mind looking a fool to make me happy. You know, he didn't mind goofing around and taking himself less serious so that I had a smile today.
Right.
I think that's the goal for me as a dad.
BJ, what does this look like at your house? Because hanging out with you, there's always going to be humor. It's usually sarcastic. So, which I love. How does
the man was hired on April Fool's Day?
Yeah,
Okay. It's part of his DNA.
What does humor look like with the Foster house?
There's just a lot of, there's a lot of sarcastic comments going around that, we need to make sure that we're not being hurtful, that kind of, and there's a lot of self-deprecation. But I think the, kind of big thing is we watch a lot of funny stuff. Like every time you mentioned memes, like when we see something funny, we're like, we kind of run to each other with that stuff.
Right.
When we see a Saturday Night Live skit that's hilarious, like I introduce my kids to all the stuff when I was a kid, like Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer and, like all the things way back when. But it's that, but like we do try to laugh. We do kind of some crazy stuff. One time I took all the furniture out of the living room and lined it with mattresses and threw sleeping bags on top of them. And they just sleeping bag wrestled or I, made them go down the steps in a sleeping bag and then inch their way around the, the house to see how fast they could do it. And stuff like that, or just even little bits like that I talked about earlier, where you're doing that one little thing to kind of bother them or, kind of goad them a little bit. And so, yeah, I mean, I try to fill that, but it's like fatherhood, parenthood, family life is filled with so much tension. I love to add whatever humor I can.
Well, I think the question that Nancy and I have tried to ask each other over the year is, what is the tone of our home? Like, because things can get so serious and we can get going 1,000,000 miles an hour and, we can start screaming at the kids to hurry up, to get ready to go to baseball practice. Okay, why are we going to baseball practice? So they can play baseball. Why are they playing baseball? So they can be well-rounded. I mean, we get ourselves into this thing where we get serious and we get to rush. What is the tone of your home? And I think humor being part of it, I think it makes everybody relax and go, you love me. I just think there's a moment that when we delight with each other, when we rejoice, when the other one's rejoicing, happy couples notice each other. And I would bet this would be true for families. Couples that are happy notice each other's positive emotions way more than unhappy couples. Like that brings you joy. And that, because I think at that point, they feel like you've engaged it with them, which they get all the feel-good chemicals even more when they know that's happening. But I know that's got to be true with our kids, that they know that we delight in them.
I think when dads are funny, it gives kids permission to be funny. If we're serious all the time and we're like, oh, I can't play games, I got bills to pay, or I can't do that, I'm working on this, or I got to fix this thing in the yard, right? There's a time to be serious, but I think if we if we think of our life as a scale and we're tipping back and forth between serious and funny, I don't think it needs to be all the way down to serious. If we keep it kind of even and even tip a little bit towards funny most of the time, it gives your kids permission to, for one, relax. Like we saw the research says it eases tension in your home, and it gives them permission to feel safe. You know, I think there's an element of like, you know, tension just introduced by you being serious all the time. But if you're goofing around, you're having fun, kids are like, oh, I can just kind of sit back in my chair a little bit and be like, man, if dad's not freaking out, I don't need to be freaking out.
We were leaving the movie. We were leaving a movie theater one time. I mean, this is within the last year. So I have teenagers. So my son's 16 and all of a sudden, like we were just kind of talking as we were heading to the car, and all of a sudden he burned me like big time, like just roasted me. And I'm going to be honest, it was borderline inappropriate.
Nice.
And I was like, whoa. I was like, man, I did not see that coming. I was like, you know, like I shouldn't be proud, but I really am. Like that was super on point, you know. So
we're not at that point yet, but just yesterday I was standing in the kind of the doorway threshold of our kitchen and like the kids' hallway. And I was standing there and I was doing something, and my son walked over and said, "Dad, pull my finger." And I was like,
no,
why?
I've seen that joke.
I was like, why? And his mom was sitting like right behind him. I was like, I don't think I should. And I was like, all right, because I could see it in his eyes. He really wanted me to do it. So I was like, all right, pulled his finger, tooted on mom. I was like, don't do that again. And he walked away. But he thought it was hilarious. But it's like he felt permission to have fun in the home because we're doing that sort of stuff all the time. Maybe not the pull the finger thing, but we're having fun all the time, you know.
I was asking in our small group the other night, I'm writing this book on emotions, and somehow we got on the topic of what was the tone of your home and what did it look like? And a lot of the ladies especially would comment on when their dad got home, how the tone of the home would change to, you better calm down. You better not
fall in line.
You better fall in line. Don't frustrate your dad. He's had a long day. And everyone's fearful. And then my other buddy, who is the most relaxed, happy guy I know, he goes, oh, I loved it when I heard my dad coming home because I knew he was going to throw the baseball with me. And I thought, when our kids hear the garage door go up, what do they know it's going to, is it going to be fun? Are we going to have a good time? Is it going to laugh? Am I so glad to see, they're going to be so glad to see me, or is it a different tone? Because if your kids are still in that stage of you walking in the door, they go, Daddy, those are the most treasured, most important moments. And that's what I would say is, what are those rituals when you come home that can be silly, that can be fun, that they can anticipate, oh, here comes Dad. When they hear the garage door open, or when they hear you walk through the door, what happens to your kid?
Well, we started doing in our home a couple of months ago, just the end of the day or dinner time conversation. What's your high? What's your low? What's your funny? And I think it's impactful to have funny in there. There's going to be highs of every day. There's going to be lows of every day. That's just ebb and flow of life. But there can also be funny every day. And if you prioritize that with your family, I think it leads to more fun, not just in the funny moments, but just all throughout your day. Because you know, there may be a high, there may be a low, but there's going to be a funny today too. And I can't wait for the funny.
Bobby, that's so great because it becomes a habit. It becomes a ritual. And kids are the best about, once we establish it, they'll keep you accountable. They're like, whoa. What about high-low? They like to keep you in those rituals. Rituals make them feel safe. So what I would say is, let's make sure some of those rituals are a lot of fun and our kids will have those memories. Here's a few things for the playbook when it comes to incorporating humor. Use it to lighten tense moments. You know, you never want to undermine their feelings, but I'm a big fan of wrestling. When I see my kids would look like, oh, they're about to go over the edge, you know, all you got to do is tackle them. You know, they're going to be, I think it's almost a distraction. You know, a lot of times they're tense and then we get tense. A lot of times our different mode of being and our different mode of joy changes that. Again, incorporate into daily routines like bedtime jokes or funny family traditions. Jonathan Mankey is on staff here, and he will get ChatGPT to write bedtime stories. And he'll ask his kids, like, who do you want to be? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And they'll read those stories out loud, and it's brilliant because everyone's really afraid of AI, and we should be. But there are some magical things, and there's no way those kids are not going to remember that Dad made bedtime's magical. Be playful with physical humor, like silly faces outside of gas pumps. Again, wrestling works wonders. And don't forget the lumpity. Like, it's the finest moment still of this day. I'm going to break into their apartment one day because they live together, and I'm going to lumpity lump. But it's just those times that just matter. I love this episode because this is things we can do. We just forget. We become so serious. We want the tone of our home to be fun. It's that easy. I love this episode. I do. I think it's something that we can all do. And dads, if you're going, well, I'm not funny, I'm more of a serious guy. Here's the great thing. The bar is so low. Yeah. If you do the slightest thing of humor, you're going to be the champ of comedy. They're going to be trying to get you a series on Netflix. So it's, hang in there, dads. Don't be discouraged. And with that, we want to move into the pro move of the week. Dads, this week, we want you to try one of these pranks that we talked about, bringing the inflatables in, whatever that is. Try some humor this week. Try to prank this week. Try to bring some joy and see what happens. If it's anything like that's large, like bringing an inflatable in, you probably want to tell your wife. I've heard that can go sideways real quick.
Good advice.
That's a marriage little warning, little caveat there.
Get the wife buy-in.
Yeah, you're going to want to get wife
Honey,
buy-in.
why is there a gigantic Frosty the Snowman in the half bathroom? Let her know.
But you can make her laugh too.
Yes.
Right. Well, you guys, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, man.
As always, it's fun to hang out. And thanks for you for hanging out with us. If you're looking for more ways to stay on top of your dad game, you can go online in the show notes and you'll see our LinkedIn profiles. And of course, you can go to allprodad.com. Again, thank you for listening today. We know that you and your kids will be glad that you did. Thanks for listening to the All Pro Dad podcast. All Pro Dad is the fatherhood program of the nonprofit Family First. Along with our motherhood program, iMom, we exist to help you love your family well. Subscribe to our daily email, the All Pro Dad Play of the Day, by going to allprodad.com/subscribe and get daily powerful and practical fatherhood tips in your inbox. The All Pro Dad podcast is hosted by me, Ted Lowe, produced by Bobby Lewis.